Now, do you remember this stuff? Two-stroke oil. It's almost a thing of the past these days, although there are still a few enduro bikes out there that are two-stroke powered. But KTM has announced that it's developed a new engine using computer controls and, most importantly, fuel injection, a transfer port injected two-stroke engine that meets all the new Euro 4 emission laws and noise laws. And this will be produced in limited numbers in 250cc and 300cc capacities for both KTM and Husqvarna branded machines in the 2018 model year. Now, this is really, really interesting because these new bikes will still be lighter than the equivalent four-strokes, but they should have a better spread of power than any two-stroke before it, and possibly a better spread of power than the four-strokes. They'll also be lighter and potentially easier to ride, faster, and more competitive than an equivalent four-stroke. Unfortunately, being a little bit simpler isn't necessarily going to mean much cheaper, because KTM spent about 5 years trying to develop these new bikes, and that development has to be paid for somewhere. So expect to pay around about the same price as a current four-stroke enduro machine. The other thing that they haven't mentioned that I think could be really, really interesting is developing some road bikes using these engines. Two-stroke powered sports bikes were definitely the go back in the day about 20, 30 years ago. And who knows, KTM could bring these back and own that marketplace as well, which would be really, really exciting. Legendary racer John Surtees passed away in March. He was the only man to have won motorcycle Grand Prix titles and a Formula One title. He won 7 motorcycle titles in 350 and 500 cc's in the 1950s and early 60s. And then in 1964 won the Formula One championship with Ferrari. Most of his wins were on Italian machinery, MV Augusta and Ferrari. Surtees was both a gentleman and also a driven individual, highly passionate about winning and doing the best he possibly could. He was very, very much a racer's racer. He was 83 when he passed away, and at that stage he was the oldest F1 champion still alive. 2017 is proving to be a pretty good year for new motorcycles, and there's 4 in particular that I reckon are pretty interesting. So the Ducati Super Sport. Now here's a machine that's still a Ducati sports bike, still looks like a Ducati sports bike, still got the full fairing that these bikes are known for, but it's got a much more relaxed riding position than the full-on hypersports machines like the Panigale. The Super Sport should offer 90% of the performance of a Panigale, but at a much reduced price with a lot more versatility. And in fact, some of the shots from Ducati even show the bike with 2 people on it. A Ducati sports bike that can carry 2 people in comfort, that's a bike we're keen to ride. We really like riding around racetracks when we get the chance. And for 2017, Yamaha's got a new R6. And if we get the opportunity to ride one of these on a circuit, we'll be there with our leathers on faster than you can say tuning forks. This bike's got all the fruit, traction control and aluminium tank, whole bunch of fancy electronics built into a 600 Super Sport. This could be more fun than anything since they released the R1 a couple of years ago. BMW's announced the R1200 GS Rally, developed in conjunction with BMW Australia. And this is going to be the most off-road focused 1200 GS ever. Probably the most off-road focused GS ever. It's going to have longer travel suspension, stiffer suspension, more ground clearance, cross-spoke wheels, knobby tyres, lots of fruit to make riding through the Australian bush that much better. We always like the GSs, this one should be the best ever. From out of left field has come the Triumph Bobber. Now this is a really unusual machine that I certainly didn't see coming, but it's a parallel twin air-cooled engine. It's got a single seat that's a saddle style. It looks like an old bike that's been restored and customised straight out of the crate. And I think this could be a lot of fun. I don't think it'll handle, I don't think it'll go, I don't think it'll stop, but it doesn't need to do any of those because it looks fantastic. For the sort of riding it's designed for and for getting the conversation started, I want to have a go on a Triumph Bobber. And now for some bikes we'll probably never ever get a chance to ride. The first one is the XADV Adventure scooter from Honda. Now, the whole idea of taking a scooter off-road fills me with horror. The whole idea of of going adventure bike riding on something with relatively small wheels is just doesn't bear thinking about. But this thing does seem to be pretty exciting. Now, Honda said they're not bringing it into Australia, but they said that about the Grom too, and we started getting those. So with any luck, we'll get a chance to have a go on a bike that should be stupidity itself, a scooter in the dirt. The Norton V4, 28,000 pounds. Yeah, no, that's way too much money. Here's a really interesting thing though. I mean, the Norton's been reborn. We've had a go on the Norton Parallel Twin. A lot of fun, interesting machine. And the V4 is a British attempt at building something that's really exclusive and really interesting and really fast, and they've been racing them around the Isle of Man, and that's all really exciting, but £28,000, that's just way too much money, and I doubt if I'll ever get a chance to ride one, but I hope I do. Okay, I have to read this. The Husqvarna Vitpillen or Zwartbillen. Yeah, because I struggle to remember those. But they're new single-cylinder commuter bikes, really. There should be nothing really special about them, and we are going to get them in this country, and Cycle Talk, hopefully we'll get a chance to ride them. But they look so radical, and I really wonder if people will be attracted to them, whether dealers will want to stock them, and whether the people out there will buy them. Their marketing material says they started with a blank sheet and tried to come up with a new bike for road use that was as minimalistic as possible, obviously with a sense of style and a sense of Husqvarna. So I'm really keen to throw a leg over these bikes, although I really wonder if they'll disappear into history in the future because they were too radical for their time. I hope not. Somebody said to me recently they'd give their left nut to ride the new Fireblade 1000 SP. I wouldn't, and the reason why is I reckon I'll need both of them heading down the main straight at Phillip Island, going into turn one at close to 300 kilometres an hour on what looks like a very, very trick motorcycle. In the history of Honda with the RC30, the RC45, I wonder if this new Fireblade will fit into that category. Chances are I'll never get a chance to ride one, but again, I would be there with bells on, given the opportunity.